You are listening to the Home Studio Simplified podcast. This is episode number 51. Today's topic, 7 tips for mixing better music. Let's go. Well, welcome back, my fellow fader finaglers. This is the Home Studio Simplified podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much. This is a little bit different today. We're doing something completely new. I release podcasts, obviously, on the frequent, stance, seeing how this is number 51. But not a lot of people knew about the podcast that were subscribed to the channel. So I thought it would be kind of cool to just get on here and do a live podcast for all of my wonderful subscribers. That way they not only know about the podcast, but they can listen to it on the channel that they're more sort of acquainted with. So this is going to be completely different. There's probably going to be some hiccups. That's fine. It's live. It's all good. So if you're listening to this on the podcast version, just know that there is a YouTube version of this as well that is going to be up on the channel. And if you're listening to this, or you're watching it rather, on YouTube, there will be a podcast version of this as well. And the podcast version will probably be a little bit more edited so that everything will set a little more cohesive. But for the most part, just something new I thought I'd throw out there and try this and see exactly just kind of how it goes. Like my grandpa used to say, just throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks. So, all right. So by way of announcements, the Quarantine Song Challenge has officially ended. And this has been a while now, but I wanted to make mention of this because I always try to keep people who are listening to the podcast in the audio form of this only up to date with what exactly is going on. So if you are up to this point and you're wondering what happened with the song challenge, but you wasn't following along on the channel, then the Quarantine Song Challenge has officially ended and the results have came in, and Chris Sanders was actually voted as the winner. And he had a ton of support from the community over on the YouTube channel, as well as in the live chat. If you were there for the actual picking of the winner, you would have seen that this guy, he had family members, friends, everybody just piled in, showed so much support. And with a towering amount of votes in his favor as well, the Garden song, the song that he chose to submit, it definitely won out over everyone else. So stick around to the end of the podcast, by the way, because I'm actually going to be playing you the song that won, Chris Sanders' Garden song. So now, after closing the challenge, I actually held a poll to see if anyone would even be interested in doing this again or having another one. And the results were highly in favor of actually hosting another song challenge. So in lieu of that, the folder to upload that is actually available in the description of this podcast or of this video if you're watching. And it's just a Dropbox folder that if you want to submit something, you just simply upload it into that folder. I'll be notified like that there's been a submission. And then we can go ahead and move forward with getting you into the new song submission for the July version of the HSS Song Contest. I also held a poll on the channel and I said, so what do you guys, if you want to do this again, what do you guys want to call it? And unanimously, everybody pretty much had said, I shouldn't say unanimously, but pretty much everybody had said the HSS Song Contest. So that's what we're dubbing it. The people have spoken. I listened to the people. So we're having another July edition of the song contest. If you have a song that you would like to submit for the contest, feel free to do so. Just upload that song into that folder and then everything will be on the up and up and we will get that included in there. Now, I am including a few rules that previously did not apply, as I've learned a lot from this last song challenge that I should have placed a few stipulations on the legal side of things in the previous one. So now, thankfully, the music police are not knocking down my door, but I did have to battle it out with some copyright claims on the YouTube channel, as well as some of the songs that were submitted were already released and held under copyright laws. So in order to sort of acquiesce to those copyright laws, anyone who submits a song, it cannot be previously submitted for whether it's CD Baby or Taxi or whatever it might be. It cannot have copyright attached to it. Obviously, it has to be a clean song, no cussing or lewd language or anything like that. And then it can be instrumental. It can be a full-blown band, whatever you want it to be. Just make sure that it does at least follow those guidelines. It's not been previously released. It's a good, clean song. And if you want to submit it from the last time I know I kept saying I would really like to have it a waves version. However, during this song challenge, I noticed everyone was submitting MP3s, and that's fine. Let's go ahead and do that anyway. So go ahead and submit an MP3, and then if you get chosen as the winner will get a mix and a master from me on that song that had won. Then we can worry about you sending me 24-bit stems and wave versions. But until that point, an MP3 version should be fine, just fine to play on the channel. That way everybody can at least hear it. Now, along with that, we went through all of the song submissions together. Everyone got to listen together. It was a really cool thing to do. And then I actually went through step by step each song and just offered some critiques for those songs as well. So if you would like to have your song critiqued, go ahead and enter it. And I think by and large, we all had a really good time doing it. So the rules will be a little bit more stringent as to keep things streamlined and also to avoid those copyright strikes on the channel. And the details about all of this will also be released on the channel as well as the Facebook soon. So keep in touch with that. And the best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon so that every time I upload a new video, you'll be the first to know. If you're listening on the podcast right now, there is a subscribe button in the iTunes app. And if you don't have iTunes, you can listen to this as well on the website. That's homestudiosimplified.com. I have that there where you can just listen to the player that's on the page itself, and there is a way to subscribe through there. So by way of other announcements, there is new merch available. Now, I've populated the merch store with several more designs at the request of some awesome people within this community. Now, keep in mind that when you go to the site to check these things out, there are a ton of variations available other than just size and color. So for instance, you can get your favorite design on a coffee mug, a sticker, a skateboard, or even a shower curtain, if that's what you want. Just look around and find something that suits your needs, and by doing so, you'll help support the channel as well. And along those same lines, I've actually included on the website a support tab. I've had a lot of people asking me questions on how they can support the channel, and so I went ahead and just threw it out there. I've got, like I said, a lot of people have been reaching out and asking. So in order to compensate me for my time and my investing in you and in helping others, I actually held a poll to ask people what they would feel comfortable with, what platforms, donation amounts, that kind of thing. And although most were very willing to go direct through PayPal, there were still some who thought it would be nice to utilize the Patreon account, as its extra members' perks are kind of like built in there. And I actually just recently updated that with a free EQ guide. So if you're a Patreon member of $1 a month or more, you're going to get that guide. If you didn't know it was in there, now you do. So there's an EQ cheat sheet that I just uploaded there for my Patreon members. Little things like that, as well as bigger things here to come in the near future for the Patreon members. But if you want to donate in any way, shape, or form, I really have included a flexible way to do that on that support tab. And you can just go there, and there's a lot of different ways that you can help support. And any of that, I mean, any of that would be much appreciated. So, and thank you all so much for those of you who have supported over the past few months, especially through Super Chats. And I've got Patreon members that are just rocking it. Thank you all so much. You did not have to do that, especially during these trying times, but you did. And I greatly appreciate that. So now let's go to the portion of the show where we talk about news-related things and our free plugins. And here we go. Okay, so in light of news, this particular podcast, we don't have a lot of news things, noteworthy things to really bring up, but one thing in particular has stood out to me that I really wanted to present you with, and that is the fact that GearFest is going to be online this year. So if you're not familiar with what GearFest is, Sweetwater puts this on yearly, and it's sort of like a close-to-home version of NAMM. The biggest names, the best deals, your favorite brands are all going to be here. It's a 2-day monumental celebration where musicians and gear lovers, music industry leaders, everyone just gets sort of a backstage all access pass to the artists, the engineers, the producers, the brands, and the gear that you crave. And this year, It is 100% online. So it's going to be available right in your living room, literally. Now you get to watch informative live panels, performances, and interviews with some music icons. You also get to shop massive deals on gear. And even right now, there's some things that I'm salivating over that they've got on their website that they've dramatically dropped the prices on. So just aside from that though, the workshops themselves, they are amazing. This year they're having live streaming workshops and performances with Alan Parsons. Everyone knows who Alan Parsons is. If you don't, congratulations, and you'll thank me later. Alan Parsons is a Grammy Award winning producer, engineer, musician, and songwriter. He's produced and engineered on The Beatles, Paul McCartney, Pink Floyd. He actually has his own The Alan Parsons Project. Nile Rodgers is going to be there. Slash is going to be there. BT is going to be there. Linda Perry. These are all presenters who are going to be giving you hands-on, just one-on-one activity and knowledge here. And the best part about this, Zave, as I can see that you're commenting, is this is online and it's free. So you're going to be able to view this from anywhere in the world, wherever it suits you, and there's no cost. Now, as of up until this point, there's always been some kind of a cost involved with it, that you've had to pay some kind of a fee to get in, and that's gone. You don't even have to do that. So there's exclusive bonus content, some of the best deals of the year, and they have $35,000 worth of amazing gear prizes that they're giving away. So I know I told you I didn't have much to talk about in lieu of news on this particular podcast. However, this is like way more than what you could ever wrap your head around. If you go and you research this, it's sweetwater.com/gearfest. Go and check it out. You're going to love it. Everyone has the ability now to go and check that out. So if you haven't, you need to. And I'm so thankful that I actually had already booked a hotel room. I was ready to go. And then COVID hit, and I thought, my first Gear Fest, I've booked the room. I'm going to finally get to go. And now I can't go. And then this happens. Sweetwater, thank you so much. You guys rock. You guys are so awesome. All right, so now let's move on to the next portion of this, which is talking about 3 free plugins. I love plugins. I love telling people about great new plugins. And some of these are not new, but a lot of them are awesome, and all of them are free. So let's talk about our first free plugin, which is the Wampler Terraform. Now, the Terraform pedal has been around for a long time, but Wampler just recently released a Terraform plugin version. And when I heard about this, immediately I was like, this has got to go in to the podcast. I got to let the people know. So now everyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge Wampler fan. I've had him here on the podcast. I've interviewed him before, love his work. And I've had the privilege not only of interviewing him here on the YouTube channel, but I've also just figured out that he's an exceptional guitar player and just an all-around nice guy. So recently, he broke into the digital realm by releasing some free, yes, you heard me, free plugin emulations of his Wampler pedals. So the Terraform is, in my opinion, just an awesome version of some other pedals that might be on the market, but in typical Wampler fashion, he always goes above and beyond what anyone else is ever offering. So not too long ago, Wampler pedals did not have a multi-effects pedal in their arsenal, and they focused more on the individual boutique style that most companies have adopted over the years. However, in November of 2019, Brian and his team unveiled the Terraform multi-effects pedal, and since then, it's been received very, very well. Now, in typical Wampler fashion, yet again, when they release something, it usually exceeds the expectations of the potential customers and longtime users alike. The Terraform is no exception. When Wampler decided to jump into the multi-effects market, he definitely did it in style. This beast of a pedal comes with 11 custom designed effect blocks, from flanger to phaser, chorus to U-vibe, harmonic tremolo, an envelope filter, etc. Now, in one incredibly small package, you can control any 8 of the presets via MIDI. You can also assign an expression pedal to control any of the 5 main controls, and you can run it in full glorious stereo or keep it mono. You can even split the mono signal to route some of the effects before you go to the drive pedals or amp gain, and you have the rest to follow behind you or in the effects loop. Now, when you put the Terraform into your rig, you know that not only will you get that legendary Wampler tone, but you also get the most easy to use, hugely versatile, and best sounding collection of modulations that you could ever want. So with all that being said, Yes, I'm talking about a guitar pedal, but now you have the option to download a digital version of that as a free plugin. How cool is that? So everything that the Wampler Terraform can do in the hardwired version is also available to do in this plugin. And from what I understand and from what I can hear and see and taste and touch and know, it's pretty close to the real thing. In fact, I would dare say that it might even be better. Why? Because it's free. Hello. All right, so let's go on and we're going to talk about plugin number 2 on the list. This is the Cypress TT15. The Cypress TT15 by Black Rooster Audio is a guitar amp head emulation that meticulously models after a versatile yet uniquely sounding low wattage amplifier. The Black Rooster Audio Cypress TT15 comes to you at an unbeatable price point, by the way. It's free. That's right. With no nonsense approach and only 6 intuitive controls, the Cypress TT15, if I can ever say that right, will help to get the job done right away. Now, no matter if you're looking for clean through a crunchy tone, or even something in between there, even if you want to achieve like a biting, distorted lead sound, they also include that. They also include a 2x12 cabinet simulation that can be bypassed if you prefer other solutions and if you're feeding into an external power amp or a cabinet on stage. So lots of versatility, definitely. And just the sounds of it so far that I have heard, I'm very, very impressed. And the day and age in which we live, amp simulations are really taking this world by storm. There are so many things that you can do with these amp simulations. And the fact that this one is free just makes it all the more interesting. We're going to go ahead and listen to a few sound examples of this. Very cool. Very cool. All right, moving on to plugin number 3 in these 3 free plugins. Now we're talking about the Steven Slate Drums 5.5 demo. Wait a minute. No, this is a completely free, fully functioning, never expiring version of Steven Slate Drums 5.5 with one incredible deluxe 2 kit, as well as a classic mix-ready processed Slate snare and 3 unique kit pieces, including Deluxe 2 Free, Hugo, and Dry and Tight for free. Now, if you have ever dealt with Steven Slate drums in the past, you know that they sound absolutely amazing. Let's take a short listen now to what these sounds actually sound like, and I'm sure that you'll be able to hear right off the bat, these are meticulous in their nature. So just from that short sound example, I'm sure that you could hear that these things rock. And not only do they rock, but they sound really, really good. I really could just see these setting into a mix very nicely without really having to do too much to them. And to be honest, he's got some of the best sounding drum sounds on the market, in my personal opinion. In fact, because this is free, I'm really resisting the urge to switch over to this right now, other than the Addictive Drums 2 that I'm currently using, just for the sake that I know how good these are going to sound. So something that has been released right now that I'm trying, that I've never tried before, I'm going to actually try and take phone calls this time around, and I'm going to try to actually take questions from the audience for those of you who would like to call in. Now, this is a completely test run. I don't know if this is even going to work right, but we shall see. Sorry about that. There's the drum sounds if you couldn't hear them. Nice. Okay, so you should have been able to hear that. Sorry about that, guys. I apologize. Yet again, that's the cool thing about live. So yeah, if you would like to call in and ask a question this time around, I will wait until I get past my main thought, but this will give you time to actually be able to dial this in. So when I get done with the main thought of today's show, feel free to call this number that's on the screen now and ask a question live if you would like to. But then again, everyone's saying there is no sound. So there should be sound now. Hopefully you're still hearing me gab on. Has the sound ended? And okay, so those of you in the chat, if you can still hear me, please let me know. Need to know if my feed is cut out. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm not getting any response, which is letting me know that you guys probably can't hear me. That's not good. Oh, okay, good deal. Good deal. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's jump into today's main thought. Today's main thought is 7 tips for a better mix. And before you walk away from this show today, I want to give you this download that's just populated the chat. This is a free PDF download that you can go and get for yourself, which is going to cover these tips just like I'm actually covering them right here, right now. So when I first started mixing, it was rough to say the least, and I was poking around in the dark, trying to blindly find my way through this maze of technical jargon and new computer programs that felt honestly very intimidating. So I don't want to do that for you. I don't want you to have to go through that. And that's why this brand exists. That's why the YouTube channel, this podcast, the website, the Facebook page, and the collab group we've started, it all revolves around helping people. Why? Because as I look back on my life, I realized that the times that I was the happiest were the times that I was helping people. And today is no exception. I want to continue this and leave a lasting legacy of being someone who was helpful to the audio community. So these tips that I'm going to give you today are going to be things that will dramatically improve your mixes right out of the gate. And once you get these principles behind these tips, then you can apply these same things that you learned today to every mix thereafter. So a quick side note before I start, I will include the same list that I'll be covering as a PDF download in the description of this video. And like I've just populated the chat. So if you're on your commute or you're just broke your favorite number 2 pencil and you can't write anything down at this particular time, I've got you covered. So let's go in to tip number 1. Tip number 1 is high pass filters. Now, a high pass filter can really help to eliminate the muddiness that plagues a mix by clearing out a section for bass heavy instruments to reside. Also, use your ears, obviously, to determine how far is too far when it comes to a high pass filter. But a good rule of thumb is to take it up until you hear an audible difference and then just to back it off a little. You have already seen here on the channel time and time again how I have taken high pass filters and shaped an entire mix out of the state of muddiness that it once was just by those alone. So that's a huge win for you. If you start utilizing high pass filters right off the bat, you can really eliminate a lot of headaches further on the road. And tip number 2, we're going to be talking about mixing in mono. Now, for those of you who have recently downloaded the free 15-step mixing system that I use, you know that I'm really big on mixing in mono, and with good reason. Folding a mix to mono will not only help you to focus on the big wins of EQ adjustments, but it also allows you to hear audible phase problems that otherwise would have been disguised in the stereo field. We just recently went through the EQ, live EQ training, where we actually did some folding it down, mixing it in mono, and did some EQ adjustments there like that. I hope that while you were watching that particular show, that you were able to see the power that lies in mixing in mono. And if you're not doing it as of right now, I would definitely suggest that you do it. At least 1 or 2 mixes. Just give it a try. Give me a shot in the dark here and just, shoot me an email and say, hey, I did it and it didn't work, or I did it and it improved. It improved my mix. I'm almost positive that you'll come back with the latter rather than the former. All right, and tip number 3 is to use reference tracks. Using reference tracks as you mix will help you to stay detached enough from your own mix that you can gain the proper perspective from time to time. Now, oftentimes we get so sidetracked into thinking that our mix sounds amazing that we become numb to the fact of what a good mix is actually supposed to sound like. So it's sort of like getting used to the dark and how your eyes will adjust to adverse conditions over time. Your ears likewise will adjust to adverse frequencies, and your ego will at times reinforce that narrative. So it's best to just use reference tracks, bring them into the mix, listen to that reference tracks before and after, and that leads very nicely into tip number 4, which is listen to music before you mix. Okay? Much like the principles of utilizing reference tracks in your mix sessions, the same thing applies here. However, this is just as powerful because it's training your ears right off the bat to be ready for what actually sounds good and what sounds a little off a bit. Now, likewise, when you listen to a piece of music on the same speakers or on the same headphones that you'll be using relatively at the same level, you're going to automatically be able to hone in on some things. So the main thing is these reference tracks are not just so you can listen to good music. These reference tracks are literally like tools to help get your ears started on the best foot forward, so that whenever you sit down to mix, you automatically know, like, boom, here we are. This is what a good mix sounds like Zave is saying here in the chat, in my space, in a poorly treated room, on the headphones that I use every day. Now that I have this sort of a springboard to go from, now I know what a good mix should sound like here on these headphones. You know what I'm saying? It gives you like this reference point to go back to. So tip number 4 is definitely listen to music before you mix. Tip number 5 is to listen at low levels. Time and time again, I've seen people just blast in their speakers so that they can really, get into the music. And I understand that. While I understand that, listening at low levels, not only do you want to protect those precious ears that are hanging off the side of your head, but you also lose clarity in the frequencies that you're hearing when they're bouncing around the room like crazy. So try and mix at a level where you can still have a normal conversation with someone who's sitting next to you, and you're actually going to be able to pinpoint a lot of things that are wrong with the mix just simply at that lower level. So tip number 6 is to take frequent breaks. This is probably one of the hardest things to do, especially for myself, because I'm one of those individuals that I cannot stand when something is not done. And when I leave things undone, it leaves an unsettled feeling in my life. I can't sleep. But when it comes to mixing, take frequent breaks. So your ears have a limit, and you have to limit them. The problem is they can't tell you when they've had enough. So really it's up to you to make the call. Now, however, if you follow the previous tip, you'll be in a much better spot to mix longer and to get more accomplished without causing damage or not hearing things properly to set those correct levels that you need to, because now you've listened at lower levels, your ears are not going to get as fatigued. So all of these tips, as you can kind of see, are all dovetailing very nicely together to helping you to get your best foot forward. Now, tip number 7 is to find a mentor. Now, one of the fastest ways to learn is to have someone who knows their way around audio to take you by the hand and walk you through some of the technicalities. And not only can they eliminate a ton of questions that you might have had, but they can also teach you other aspects that come up with the territory. Now, a newbie who might be just sitting down and starting this stuff, it's going to be very taxing on your mind, on your brain, and it really is going to help to have that moral support of a good mentor as well. They're also going to be able to teach you things that you wouldn't learn just by sitting down and messing, finagling faders. They're going to be able to teach you things like client relations and working with multiple clients at the same time, how to properly gain stage, and many other things that even most online courses either don't cover or have been overlooked for the sake of brevity. So if you're interested in learning from me, if you would like for me to be your online mentor, I am definitely one of those mentors who is putting myself out there for less than what it would cost you for a cup of gas station coffee. You can become a part of a small, close-knit group of others who have taken the next step in improving their audio skills, just like those who are in the chat are doing. Now, if you're interested in making better music in 2020, sign up today for a monthly membership on the Patreon page. Patreon members have exclusive access to me, as well as content that is not released anywhere else. Zave, who is in the chat right now, he is a $1 a month Patreon member, and he has access to nearly everything that any other Patreon member would have. So it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. If you want to jump up to a $5 or $10 a month, you get access to the courses that I sell. You're going to get access to those in there, but everyone has access to me within that Patreon community. I'm also going to be really doing a lot more as the days ensue and as more of those Patreon members begin to pour in. I'm going to be holding one-on-one sessions within Patreon only. I'm going to be doing a studio tour here soon, just so you guys can see what I work with or don't work with. I'm also, I just dropped, if you didn't know about it, Zave, this would be a good time for you to go and check the Patreon page, because I just dropped a free PDF download for an EQ cheat sheet, which is going to give you a best foot forward when working with EQ. There's several different reasons as to why it would be beneficial for you to join. Obviously, it's beneficial for me, but the thing is, if I know that you are investing in me, then I'm going to be more apt to invest back in you. And guess what? Those who have done this, those who have taken that time, just today I got off of a Skype call with James, who was like head over heels telling me, and this is not trying to pat myself on the back at all, I'm not even like that, but James was telling me that since he's went through the 4 Skype calls that we've had, that his mixing skills have dramatically improved. So very awesome. And all that was done within a matter of 4 Skype calls, 4 30-minute, well, we talked for about 40 or 50 minutes, but 4 30-minute Skype calls, and he said, my mixing skills are already dramatically improved. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes with, I'm seeing a comment about the lava lamps. That's what I'm talking about when it comes with the territory of having a mentor in your life. Now, are there others out there who are way more equipped to help you? Yes, but will they? That's the good question. I can't speak for everybody, but I do know that not a lot of people put themselves out there and give as much information as I do. Now, one individual that I always talk about on this show, if you don't want to take me on as a mentor, at least take on somebody. Keith, or I said Keith because I seen him in the chat. Warren Hewitt is an amazing online mentor that if you have not watched any of his stuff, you need to go over and check him out. And sort of a spoiler alert, he's going to be on the show here within the next week or two. I'm going to be interviewing Warren Hewitt again. This will be the second time around, but this time I want to actually get questions live from you guys. So definitely. All right. So that concludes today's episode of the HSS podcast. If you found it helpful, drop a comment down below and let me know about that. And feel free to share this with anyone that you think it might help as well. And remember that if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, that beautiful bell icon that alerts you when there's new content dropping or a live stream that's about to go down. Now, likewise, you all know that Home Studio Simplified exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. We can dream alone, we can create alone, but together we can achieve so much more. Okay, that will conclude the portion of the podcast for the audio. Now I'll fly that into my DAW later, and I will use that for the glorious editing work that goes into the podcast. What I would like to know, though, is are there any questions in the chat while I'm here that you guys would like to ask for the next 15-20 minutes? If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask those questions. And I know that I didn't really give anyone that much of a sort of a warning about this podcast or this live video, but to be honest, I was scared out of my wits, and I thought, well, if I don't tell anybody and it goes over and it flops, nobody will know. But I didn't realize when I went live that there would be so many who hopped on. So thank you guys. I appreciated the moral support, seeing the stuff rolling in on the chat section. As you well know, I'm my OCD was an ADD, and every other DD kept pulling me over here to the chat section, and I wanted to answer questions, but I was like, no, I've got to stay with the course, brother. But at any rate, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them now, and then we will have to conclude this edition of the podcast very shortly. So I'm looking at the chat section now and back in the routine. Okay for work. Actually, I have not returned to work as of yet. My return to work date was extended due to the fact that they are forcing me now to go on night shift. Unfortunately. Apparently, I probably shouldn't say too much about that. Well, anyway, because I'll be going on night shift, they gave me an extra amount of time off to prepare my body for the night shift, which we all know, the graveyard shift is for the birds. Nobody can really get used to that. So I'm in a pickle, but, it looks like Zave has another question. He says, has anyone installed the drum replacer? Yes, I have installed it and I have used it from time to time. It's actually not that bad. There have been times where it has sort of saved some drum sounds, and then there's other times where it was just a headache. And that's what I mean by it was just a headache, Zave. Yes, it did crash a couple times. I'm not sure why. Yeah. So, Keith, yes, it is a little bit of extra money. Of course, there's a shift differential, but other than that, they're basically just, I got slighted, to be perfectly honest, but that's okay. All that stuff does come back to people. You reap what you sow. Is there a way to create a mono instrument track in Cakewalk? Absolutely. Or is there a way to convert stereo instrument track to mono? Yes, absolutely. So, the way to create a mono instrument track in Cakewalk by BandLab is to simply just, when you go to your insert track, just interleave from mono into stereo. Okay, and I'm sorry, I was reading Keith's comment. And then likewise, if you want to make a stereo track mono, just simply right click on the waveform, and it will give you options, and it will actually tell you that you can bounce it to a mono track. Now, obviously, you can't bounce a mono track to a stereo. You can't go in reverse, but you can take a stereo and bounce it down to mono. That's perfectly fine. In fact, in the mixing session that I did for Bon Gonzo, a lot of his stuff I actually folded down to mono for that, using those same tips and tricks there. So, excellent question. By the way, it's good to have... Ganjang, I hope I'm not saying that wrong. It's good to have you again, buddy. I think this might be your second or third time here. I'm sorry. It's good to have you though. And Micah, good to see you here again. Keith, it's always a pleasure. Always bringing some lightheartedness to the stream. Zave, as usual, you're the man. Who else we got on here? Makot Kot. First time here, buddy. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate that. And it looks like we have someone else who decided they would subscribe while they were here today. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. So, Ganjang, it is your first time. Okay. Good deal. Is there a way to record a VST straight to waveform rather than to MIDI? Yes. Yes, there actually is. So what you got to do is you can either, well, there's a couple different ways that you can do this, but you can set up an aux track and let the input of the aux track be the output of the MIDI track, and then record it that way. You can also use patch points, which if you watched my last video on aux tracks and patch points, you'll know that it was pretty much the same thing. So the difference between an aux track and a patch point is just routability, and with patch points, you can just patch things here and there. With aux tracks, you can actually record the audio that's being sent there. So, and it all keeps it on one screen instead of having to go back over to your console view all the time. So yeah, there's definitely ways to do that. In fact, it's very beneficial to do that from time to time. That way you kind of get married to a sound instead of constantly beating yourself over the head with, is it good enough? Great question. Okay, so I am going to go ahead, and I've got no phone calls coming in, at least that I know of. I didn't see any. So nobody feels brave enough to use the phone call. Now that is, let's see. Yep, got no phone calls right now, so we're good on that. That's fine. I just wanted to include it as an option because I didn't know if anybody would really feel okay doing that. But at the same time, I thought, well, this might be kind of cool. Let's try this. So going forward, I'm going to have it to where you can call in through that number. He said saves in a call box and he's out of change. I'm sorry, man. I'd send you some money if I could, but it probably wouldn't work in your call box. But yeah, thank you guys so much for showing up, and thank you for sort of being guinea pigs on this test of a live podcast. I was wondering how this would go. It actually went a little bit smoother than what I thought it would. So that's pretty cool. Might start doing this, as it kind of kills two birds with one stone. I don't have to sit down and record a podcast and then sit down and record a video. I can just do them both at once. It's all about saving time, you know. Scott KC to CAD says, you have done a lesson on the ACT, or do you plan on doing one? I have, just not an extensive one. I actually released a video on the BR800, the Boss BR800. It's in my my gear reviews playlist. But it actually there's several different things in there, where I use the Boss BR800 as a control surface. And so I use the ACT to actually control the faders and the knobs on the Boss BR800 to control things within my DAW. And it's super simple. I might just go ahead and at some point in time do another video on that, where you can use a MIDI keyboard. You can, there's all kinds of, in my recent video too, 5 tips, I believe it was 5 tips for creating realism with MIDI. That video I actually real quickly, I didn't go in depth, but real quickly I did go through it on that too, because I showed how that you can take a MIDI controller and control your DAW. So although I haven't done an in-depth lesson on it, I have done a lesson on it before. Just not a lot of people ask for it, so I'd like to kind of hit those things that a lot of people are asking for, so I can please the most amount of people at once. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and close today's podcast out with the song submission. Missed you on Saturday. Yeah. So because I work a rotating schedule, I'm glad you brought that up, because I work a rotating 12-hour schedule. So 1 week, the live stream that we do every week is going to be on Saturday, and then the next week it will fall on a Thursday. So yet again, it's going to be very imperative that you hit that bell icon so that you know when I'm going to go live. And of course, if you follow the community tab that's here on YouTube, you're going to know as well, because I always try to post there a few days in advance when I'm going to be going live. And that way you can set reminders, and also keep tabs on the calendar. There's a calendar on the website that lets you know when the next live stream is going to show up as well. So we're going to go ahead and end today's podcast out with the song submission winner for the previous quarantined song challenge, sort of the one that kicked all of this off. And like I said, there are still opportunities to upload your song submission into that folder that will be included in the description of this video, so that you can actually get to be a part of July's HSS song contest. So enjoy this song from Chris Sanders that won the last one. The song is called The Garden Song. And until next time, guys, love y'all. Peace.
Jesus prayed alone on that fateful night in the garden while they slept. Tears came down from his eyes as he looked down and wept. He said, Father, give me strength, for the time is coming soon. All alone with only faith to hold on to. I'm coming with you, Father. My fears will end real soon. I know your arms will be open to guide me when I'm through. Just take my hand and do your will, this earth. The sin runs deep, the word is lost, and your name is used in vain. I can't help to realize why my sacrifice is made. If you need me, then please use me. My love for you is strong. May this be a hope for sinners to rest upon. I'm coming with you, Father. My fears will end real soon. I know your arms will be open to guide me when I'm through. Just take my hand and do your will. I'll take you at your word. And may we save these souls here on this earth. As they came for him, he stood there still and knew his time had come. But he knew to give his life was what had to be done. I'm coming with you, Father. My fears will end real soon. I know your arms will be open to guide me when I'm through. Just take my hand and do your will. I'll take you at your word. And may we save these souls. May we save these souls. And may we save